I said, your degree? He goes, yeah, my graduate degree. I said, your graduate degree from NYU? He goes, yeah, my graduate degree from NYU. So I said, okay, let's look up and see what's going on. And he just starts shining. And he's out of default. He's actually out. He's been through the whole entire process. He has it. He has his default clearance letter, and that default clearance letter is what gets you through. And they have been garnished his wages for years. And it's just a process where he's back, he's shining, he's confident, he's looking forward. And I expect great things out of him. I expect great things out of him with my organization as I reach forward and go forward. And he works with me also. And with that, but first, I like to present him a present. He's going to get that first sign. This is the sign that we had up. This is the one he saw. And he's going to get that sign. Okay.
Well, thank you so very much. First of all, I would like to consider all of us brothers and sisters, alumni, people in war together. I'm a Vietnam veteran, Vietnam Marine veteran, and the thing is, it's like I've gone through a lot of stuff. And so I've learned a lot along the way. Seeing I'm the youngest one here, that means that I have a lot to offer. And let me also say to each and every one of you, if I ever see you personally, or if you need any kind of assistance in just to communicate, to talk, to speak, any kind of help with anything, I'm available. Now, I am going back to school. So I'm a classic example as to it's never too late to go back to school and learn. I know a lot of stuff. There's still a lot that I would like to learn. And I would also like to be in a situation to where I want to share. Now, I am an actor, director, and writer as well. So I often do share a lot of stuff. But then I would also like to give credence to the fact that we are all in this together. And we have accomplished a lot. You have accomplished a lot. And by the grace of God, and this young man here in his organization, let's give this young man. We need to give him a scholarship. So I think that the work that we do in his name and in his organizational name, that we are giving him enough, I think. And we can never give him enough. Just put it that way. So let's keep on going. Let's keep on thriving. Let's keep on moving. And also understand there is a God, an almighty God, and in his graces, and in his love for all of us. And he loves the ones who don't love him, even at that point. So let's move on, let's carry on. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
And today is a transition. And the reason he has that sign, because when I put it up, too many people came. I couldn't handle it. They kept calling. I had to take it down. And another thing that's important to understand is part of transitions just change. And change is hard. And FSAP was my baby. It's what got me here. But we're going to transition FSAP. We're going to reach out, nonprofit. I have an organization called Patch America. We're going to consolidate. And we want to do groups like this. We want to do projects because it has more impact than individuals coming in one at a time off the street. We'll still do this processing. It'll be under federal student aid default management as opposed to FSAP, with the same character, the same soul, the same dignity for you people still gonna be there. And I hope that you pray, that you all get together with me, and we move this thing forward, and we get with the right people and the right resources, and we meet the right people and the right resources, and we make this happen. With that, as you can see on your itinerary, the first thing we did was introduction, then we wanted to do the Lord's Prayer, and I kind of wanted to do the Lord's Prayer at the end. I wanted to hear from everybody, I wanted to talk to everybody. So what we're going to do now is we're going to join together in the Lord's Prayer, then we're going to close out with one of our other sponsors and supporters. Okay, so I'll lead. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. This next presenter, his name is Jack. And I met Jacqueline at the summit, education summit. And she walked up and she said, "Hey, how are you doing?" I said, "I'm fine." And she introduced herself and she asked me what my program was about. And she reached out to me, she texted me, and I went to one of her poetry sessions. She has poetry jams and poetry. She explained it better than I can. But she's into poetry, she's into debate. And what that does for me is it says that she's about life and the humanities. And that's what I'm about. I'm going to promote the humanities because I think that college not only has the responsibility to teach you math and science, but in our community where there's a large communal disability going on because of all these barriers that we need to understand, these risk factors that we need to understand, which I'm going to try to develop funding for so we can get these programs. She came with that humanities element and it touched me deep in my heart and deep in my soul. And I wanted her to be part of this process also. So she's going to come up now and she's going to make a presentation about what she does, and we're going to do a nice little poetry slam for you.
I want to thank Mr. Davis and Ms. Caldwell. I just thanked her for the inspiring words. It just hit me. And as Mr. Davis just mentioned, being out there in the community in whatever front we choose to represent what's best for us, we get a chance to strengthen in our lane, hopefully not just for the individual, but for the community. That last phrase you mentioned about helping to overcome some of the communal disabilities, some of the barriers, that speaks very, very closely to my heart. Being someone that works with several people behind the scenes on a lot of music and poetry interests here in town. One of the films that we reviewed at Ephesians 3, which is the group that he just mentioned, it's called E3 for short on here. We recently watched one of my favorite movies, The Great Debaters. The Great Debate, you know, the Denzel and Forrest Whitaker movie. Long story short, my take on that movie speaks to so many things we've talked about already today. I personally think that that first barrier to getting past whatever is us having an underdefined definition of self. Not knowing who we are, not knowing whose we are. That's very important, because only with that knowledge of self that can be made whole through our Creator can we do anything. It's like somebody already said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But if you don't know that, you know, he already knows us, but if you don't know that, you are your own barrier quite often. So that was just right on the money, and I almost stole my poem. But this poem is called Oh People, the Remix. And it was written October 13th of 2013, actually. One of the events that you can count on Ephesians 3, that group that he just mentioned, hosting every month like clockwork, puts on something called Second Saturdays. Look it up, ephesians3.net. We usually meet right at 39th and Broadway, like clockwork, on the second Saturday of the month. And on that particular day, on Broadway, I couldn't help but be disturbed by some very recent news at that time. This is a flashback here, but it's just like Deja Vu, 2015 today. We had just had yet another major round of atrocities, not overseas, not in some other state, up and down our fair city streets here in the field. And that touched me then just like it does now. And it helped to inspire this poem. Charlie Wilson sang. You all know Charlie Wilson? Yeah. You know him whether or not you're in church or out of church. You know Charlie Wilson. The Gappers, nobody knows the Gap band in here? Yes. You need to help me out then. I told Anthony Davis I will be moving if the crowd is working with. Charlie Wilson sang, you can't keep running. You can't keep running in and out of my life. seemed like theme music to a movie as I traveled throughout our city's streets, avenues, and yes, Broadway. Though it's not the only time that song crossed my mind while crossing our city streets, it was the most recent time that song compelled to action this very poem. You can't keep running in and out of my life. More accurate words have never been spoken. You see, our city, from the west to the east, from the south to the north, sometimes behaves as if Possibility City is not even our name. What happens when we don't know or act our name? Back to that movie we just talked about. We're not the exception when we're doing great things. We need to remind ourselves that's the standard. That's the norm. You achieving your goals and pushing through a barrier, that's the norm. Okay? But what happens when we don't know our name? We are lost. What happens when we know that name and don't act our name? Same answer. We are lost. Whether lost in the Ville, throw those L's up. Whether lost in Paris, Kentucky. Whether lost in Paris, France. Lagos, Beijing, Accra, Veracruz. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. When we don't know or act our name, when God's people by our own choosing are seemingly lost and turned out, it's all the same. Thinking and watching on that particular day, thinking and watching right there in the midst of what's going on, I began to pray. And I began to listen, and I could hear God's cry, God's heart, God's voice say, you can't keep running in and out of my life. Just like Charlie was singing to his sweetheart, God says to us, you can't keep running in and out of my life. The time has come, Charlie said, for us to stop messing around. He ain't new, you know this. God has said a long time ago, the time has come and gone and come and gone and come and gone again. For 42 generations, look it up. That's from Adam to Christ, and then that's us, y'all. For us to stop messing around. He says, cause don't you know, I like having you around, but you keep running. Indeed, the actions of some, whether good or bad, forward thinking or backward or stifling, even though that can't represent all of us, it is still the case that a city, and even that matter, a land or planet or people, cannot be made whole until that each of those, each of the she and the he alone has been found and made to know the name and to be made whole. 99 might seem like a lot, but Jesus came back for what? That one sheep. Because he doesn't want us to keep running in and out of his life. So many times he says, and by he, I don't mean Charlie, that's my dude, but I mean the original G, capital. So many times he says, I have looked for you, always there for you, always there to hide you from the shelter, to hide you from the rain, and yes, to hide you from your pride. Over the years, think about that, before, during, and after the first Exodus, he says, I have been your guide. Translation, he ain't new to this, he's what? True to this. Even when, in spite of when, and after all when, because of my love, you actually put me aside. Now who's still standing around after all that dirty? None of them. Yet, he says, you keep running in and out of my life. Well, you know the title of this poem was Oh People, the remix. Well, we're getting to that. The remix from 2 Chronicles all the way to Romans 5. That's the old and the new and then some. It's all there at the same time because he alone can be that. It goes something like this. If my people, which are called by my name, that means you got to know that name that you're called by, shall humble themselves and pray, that's us, and seek my face, God says, and turn from their wicked ways, then, so for those mad people in here, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. Look it up. Some of the barriers that we talked about, the communal disabilities, I love that phrase. Look it up. Insane speaks to being not whole. But God talks about how he can heal our land. Moving on to Romans, that New Testament. But God commendeth his love toward us in that while we were yet sinners, while we were yet running, while we were yet yearning, while we were yet lost and turned out, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Yet we keep running. He says you can't keep running in and out of my life. Please, God says, don't keep running. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I thank you all for coming. I thank you all for sharing. And if you have any questions, if you have any concerns about anything going on with any of your programs, you know my number, the hotline's 24/7. Have a wonderful time and go enjoy some refreshments. Thank you all. First of all, let's get a picture.
Yes, so I was waiting.
Let's get a picture. Then after we get the picture, then everybody that's in the program, you got a goodie bag up here, okay? So everybody in that picture, come on, let's get a